Chapter 26. And Agrippa said to Shaul, "You are allowed to speak for yourself." Then Shaul stretched out his hand and made his defense. "I think myself blessed, Sovereign Agrippa, because today I shall make my defense before you concerning all of which I am accused by the Yehudim. You being most of all an expert knowing of all the practices and questions which have to do with the Yehudim, so please hear me patiently. Truly then, all the Yehudim know my way of life from youth, which I led from the beginning among my own nation at Jerusalem, since they have known me from the first. If they wish to witness that I lived as a Pharisee according to the strictest sect of our observance, and now I stand and am judged for the expectation of the promise made by Elohim to our fathers, to which our 12 tribes, earnestly serving Elohim night and day, expect to attain. Concerning this expectation, O Sovereign Agrippa, I am accused by the Yehudim. Why is it considered unbelievable among you if Elohim raises the dead? Therefore, indeed, I thought within myself that I ought to do much against the name of Yeshua of Nazareth, which also I did in Jerusalem, and I shut up many of the set-apart ones in prison, having received authority from the chief priests, and when they were put to death, I gave my vote against them, and punishing them often in all congregations, I compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly enraged against them, I persecuted them, even to foreign cities. While thus engaged, as I was journeying to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests, at midday along the highway, O Sovereign, I saw a light from the heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those who journeyed with me. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me and saying in the Hebrew language, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the prods. And I said, Who are you, Master? And he said, I am Yeshua, whom you persecute. But rise up and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to appoint you a servant and a witness, both of what you saw and of those which I shall reveal to you, delivering you from the people and the nations, to whom I now send you, to open their eyes, to turn them from the darkness to light, and the authority of Satan to Elohim, in order for them to receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who are set apart by belief in me. Therefore, Sovereign Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision, but declared first to those in Damascus, and in Jerusalem, and in all the country of Yehuda, and to the nations, that they should repent, and turn to Elohim, and do works worthy of repentance. That is why the Yehudim seized me in the set-apart place, and tried to kill me. Therefore, having obtained help from Elohim, to this day I stand, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other than what the prophets and Moshe said would come, that the Messiah would suffer, would be the first to rise from the dead. He would proclaim light to the people and to the nations. And while saying this in his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Shaul, you are mad. Much learning is turning you to madness. But Shaul said, I am not mad, most excellent Festus, but I speak words of truth and sense. For the sovereign before whom I also speak boldly knows these matters. For I am persuaded that none of these are hidden from him. For this has not been done in a corner. Sovereign Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you do believe. And Agrippa said to Shaul, with a little you might persuade me to become a Messianist. And Shaul said, much or little, I pray to Elohim, that not only you, but also all who hear me today might become such as I also am, except for these chains. And having said this, the sovereign stood up, as well as the governor and Bernice and those sitting with them. And having withdrawn, they spoke to each other, saying, This man is doing none at all deserving death or chains. And Agrippa said to Festus, This man could have been released if he had not appealed to Caesar. Chapter 27. And when it was decided that we should sail to Italy, they delivered Shaul and some other prisoners to one named Julius, a captain of the Augustan regiment. And having embarked on the ship from Adramyttium, about to sail along the coast of Asia, did set sail. Aristochus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us, and on the next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius treated Shaul kindly and allowed him to go to his friends to receive attention. And from there we put out to sea and sailed close to Cyprus, because the winds were against us. And having sailed over the sea along Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Mura and Lycia. And there the captain, having found an Alexandrian ship sailing to Italy, did put us on board. And having sailed slowly many days, and arriving with difficulty off Knidos, the wind not allowing us to proceed, we sailed close to Crete, off Salmone. And passing it with difficulty, we came to a place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lycia. And much time having passed, the sailing now being dangerous because of the fast was already over, Shaul advised them, saying, Men, I see that this voyage is going to end with damage and great loss, not only of the cargo and ship, but also our lives. But the captain was persuaded by the pilot and the owner of the ship, rather than what Shaul said, and because the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the greater part advised to set sail from there too, if somehow they were able to reach Phoenix, a harbor of Crete facing southwest and northwest, to pass the winter. And a south wind blowing softly, thinking they had obtained their purpose, having lifted anchor, they sailed along Crete, close inshore. And not long after, a stormy headwind rushed down from it, called a nor'easter. When the ship was caught in it, and unable to head against the wind, we let her go, and were driven. And having run under a small island called Clauda, we were hardly able to control the small boat. And having hoisted it, they used helps to undergird the ship, and fearing lest they should run aground on Syrtis, they lowered the tackle, and so were driven. And because we were exceedingly storm-tossed, the next day they began to throw overboard. And on the third day we threw out the ship's tackle with our own hands. When now neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, and no small storm beat on us, all expectancy that we would be saved was taken away. And when there had been a long abstinence from food, then Shaul, standing in the midst of them, said, Truly, men, you should have listened to me, not to have sailed from Crete, and sustained this damage and loss. And now I urge you to take courage, for there shall be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For tonight a messenger of the Elohim, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood by me, saying, Do not be afraid, Shaul. You have to be brought before Caesar. And look, Elohim has favorably given you all those who sail with you. Therefore take courage, men. For I believe Elohim, that it shall be according to the way it was spoken to me. However, we need to run aground on some island. And when the 14th night came, as we were driven up and down in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight the sailors suspected that they were drawing near some land. So taking soundings, they found it to be 20 fathoms. And a little farther on they took soundings again, and found it to be 15 fathoms. And fearing lest we should run aground on the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern, and were praying for day to come. But when the sailors were seeking to escape from the ship, when they had down the boat into the sea under the pretense of going to cast out anchors from the prow, Shaul said to the captain and the soldiers, "If these do not remain in the ship, it is impossible for you to be saved." Then the soldiers did cut the ropes of the boat and let it fall off. And when day was about to come, Shaul urged them all to take food, saying, "Today is the 14th day. You have continued without food and eaten none at all. So I urge you to take food, for this concerns your safety, since not a hair shall fall from the head of any of you." And having said this, he took bread and gave thanks to Elohim in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. And they were all encouraged, and also took food themselves. And all of us were 276 beings in the ship. And being satisfied with food, they were lightening the ship, throwing out the wheat into the sea. And when day came, they did not recognize the land, but they noted a certain bay with a beach, onto which they planned to run the ship if possible. And having cast off the anchors, they left them in the sea, meanwhile untying the rudder ropes. And they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But coming upon a place where 2 seas meet, they grounded the ship, and the prow stuck fast and remained immovable. But the stern was broken by the pounding of the surf, and the soldiers intended to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim away and escape. But the captain, intending to save Shaul, kept them from their intention, and commanded those able to swim to jump first and get to land, and the rest, some indeed on boards, and some on items of the ship. And so it came to be that all reached the land in safety. Chapter 28. And having come to safety, they then learned that the island was called Melit. And the foreigners showed an extraordinary kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us all, because of the rain that was falling and because of the cold. But Shaul, having gathered a bundle of sticks, and having laid them on the fire, an adder came out because of the heat, and fastened itself on his hand. And when the foreigners saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man is certainly a murderer, whom though saved from the sea, still right ruling does not allow to live." Then indeed he shook off the creature into the fire, and suffered no evil. And expecting that he would swell up or suddenly fall down dead, they waited for a long time and saw no harm come to him. Changing their minds, they said that he was a mighty one. And in the neighborhood of that place were there lands of the chief of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and housed us in a friendly way for 3 days. And it came to be that the father of Publius lay sick in inflammation and dysentery. Shaul went in to him, and having prayed, he laid his hands on him and healed him. And when this took place, the rest of those on the island who had disease also came and were healed, who also respected us in many ways. And when we were setting sail, they provided us with our needs. And after 3 months we set sail in an Alexandrian ship which had wintered at the island, and whose figurehead was Dioscuri. And having landed at Syracuse, we stayed 3 days, from which place we went around and arrived at Rhegium. And after 1 day the south wind blew, and the second day we came Puteoli, where we found brothers, and were invited to stay with them 7 days. And so we went toward Rome. And when the brothers there heard about us, they came to meet us as far as Forum of Appius and 3 taverns. When Shaul saw them, he thanked Elohim and took courage, And when we came to Rome, the captain delivered the prisoners to the captain of the guard, but Shaul was allowed to stay by himself with the soldier guarding him. And it came to be, after 3 days, that Shaul called the leaders of the Yehudim together. And when they had come together, he said to them, Men, brothers, though I have done none at all against our people, or the practices of our fathers, I was delivered as a prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans, who, when they had examined me, intended to let me go, because there was no cause for putting me to death. But the Yehudim spoke against it, and I was compelled to appeal to Caesar. Not that I had any accusation against my nation. This, therefore, is the reason I called for you to see you and speak with you. It is because of the expectation of Israel that I am bound with this chain. And they said to him, We neither received letters from Yehuda concerning you, nor have any of the brothers who came reported or spoken whatever wicked about you. And we think it right to hear from you what you think, for indeed concerning this sect we know that it is spoken against everywhere. And having appointed him a day, many came to him where he was staying, to whom he was explaining earnestly, witnessing about the reign of Elohim, and persuading them concerning Yeshua from both the Torah of Moshe and the prophets from morning until evening. And some indeed were persuaded by what he said, but some believed not. And disagreeing with one another, they began to leave after Shaul had spoken one word. The set-apart spirit rightly spoke through Yeshayahu the prophet to our fathers, saying, Go to this people, and say, Hearing you shall hear, but by no means understand, and seeing you shall see, but by no means perceive. For the heart of this people has become thickened, and with their ears they hear heavily, and they have closed their eyes, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn back, and I should heal them. Therefore let it be known to you that the deliverance of Elohim has been sent to the nations, and they shall hear. And when he had said these words, the Yehudim went away and had a great dispute amongst themselves. And Shaul stayed 2 entire years in his own rented house, and was receiving all who came to him, proclaiming the reign of Elohim, and teaching about the Master, Yeshua, Messiah, with all boldness, unhindered. Shalom.